Hi, my name's Alec Barron, and I'm going to be talking to you about what Competency X looks like and how you can help us develop the system. So, as we talked about in our previous presentation, the situation that led to the development of Competency X was based on our observations of scholars struggling on performance-based tasks that required a transfer of knowledge and skills from one context to another. We felt that how they struggled on these performance tasks was due to not enough practice behaving like a scientist in the classroom, and then a lack of tracking skill development, and that these two components lead to their lack of success on performance tasks, and thus a lack of success with transferring knowledge and skills to biotechnology-based internships. That's the situation that led to the development of Competency X. And at its core, Competency X begins with competency-based assessments that are tied to specific learning goals that integrate science and engineering practices with something we call cross-cutting concepts and these things called disciplinary core ideas. That would be the content, the what, the knowledge that you have about how the world works. These competency-based assessments we want to be frequent and for there to be multiple opportunities for success. And the reason why we want that is because we believe that learning is cumulative and that the evidence of competency should be cumulative. Scholars are not going to be perfect the first time they attempt a particular skill set. It may not be until the fifth attempt using a particular skill set in a particular area of the laboratory or investigation or content area that they finally are reaching mastery with using those skills and knowledge. So what we wanted our scholars to do is act as curators in a digital portfolio of their success with the knowledge and skills necessary to be a successful practicing scientist or engineer, and to reflect on the evidence and skills and knowledge tied to the learning goals that we set for them. And in that digital portfolio, they can curate examples from quizzes, writing pieces, and videos from lab work. And then once a scholar has accumulated enough evidence of their competency in a particular area of science and engineering practices, then they'll be awarded a digital badge. And these digital badges, you're going to help us sponsor these badges, and they're going to represent very specific knowledge and skills in their digital portfolio. Then the digital badges will act as a currency for scholars to earn internships and then possibly be used to earn college credit maybe, and then also can be used by our industry partners to validate their knowledge and skills so that scholars have and they can use them in their internship. So a scholar can jump deeper into the work in an internship rather than having to be trained for a period of time before they get deep with a project. So that's the idea behind Competency X. And to help us build it, what we want from you that's going to help us are stories of the performance tasks that you have your students or employees work through. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the essential skills and knowledge and dispositions that are associated with those tasks. And from that, we're going to build something called a learning progression. A learning progression maps out the development of how students understand and can use core science concepts and practices, and how those practices grow and become more sophisticated over time. And that's what the badges are going to be mapping out. Our digital badges are going to have a hierarchy with which as you earn badges, you work your way up to earning a master level badge that's going to represent very specific knowledge and skills with performing as a scientist in the laboratory. So for example, in ninth grade, based on your stories of what you have students or employees work through, we'll backwards design it where we'll look at where you want them to end up, and then we'll look at what they need to be able to do to get to that end point. So for example, if we want our scholars going into 11th grade internships, able to create and or critique a complex experimental design, what do they need to be able to know and do in order to get to this point? So a learning progression maps out how they get to that endpoint. So for example, in ninth grade, we'd expect them to be able to identify experimental features. 10th grade, they'd be able to create and critique a simple experimental design, and then it becomes increasingly complex by 11th grade. Then what we'll do is we'll have badges that will be earned along that progression that we'll be developing with you. So in 9th grade, they get a badge for that body of knowledge and skills, then in 10th, then in 11th, and once they've accumulated these badges, they can earn a master badge that will then allow, that then will be used to say, hey, I know how to design an experiment. I know how to look at the methodology behind an experiment, and whatever features and skills and knowledge that you would like them to have by the time they enter your internship or employment. So as an example of this, we prototyped this process in 10th grade this past year, and we developed a couple of badges, and one of them was the spectrophotometry badge, because we found this to be a very essential skill set as a practicing scientist throughout our laboratory courses that we have at Del Lago. And what we do is we write out the badge expectations based on what it means to be successful if you've earned this badge. So if you have this badge, you are able to describe how a spectrophotometer operates. You can explain the relationship between concentration, absorbance, and transmittance. You can explain potential sources of error, and you can determine the concentration of a solute in a solution using a standard curve. Another example badge that we created was measuring small volumes, where we wanted to make sure that our scholars could accurately pipette and micropipette and use dimensional analysis to work with the different units of volume that are involved in different laboratory protocols. So those are examples of badges, and then the way that a scholar would get a badge, I'm going to use the measuring small volumes badge as an example, is that we develop a set of evidence that we feel is necessary and to earn the badge. And this is from our prototype that we did in 10th grade. So for example, measuring small volumes, we worked together to develop a pipette measurement check, a micropipette measurement check, a little unit conversion quiz, and then we wanted a scholar to reflect on their skill sets across 2 artifacts that they curate. So let me show you an example of an artifact. So this is an artifact which showed the process of scholars developing skill sets with pipetting. So scholars have iPads with them, and it's 1-to-1, which means they keep the iPad as their scholar at Del Lago, and they can record videos, they can take photos, and then those act as the artifacts that they put in the digital portfolio to represent the skill development that they've done to earn a particular badge. And in this case, it's the measuring small volumes badge. And you can see that here's an example of the pipette check, and here's an example of the micropipette check. And then what they do is then they write about the evidence that they're using to show that they have achieved competency with this skill set, and then reflect on their growth. And then what they do is they put that into a digital portfolio. So this is the Competency X webpage, and I'm going to go to a couple of example digital portfolios for this measuring small volumes badge, where then the scholar writes down what they're able to do based on earning this badge. They reflect on their evidence, and they include artifacts which illustrate their skill sets and knowledge to be able to do these things. This becomes the evidence with which to demonstrate that they have these skills and knowledge. And another example of this would be this other scholar here, just so you can see the diversity of what they look like. And then once a teacher has validated that, yes, they've done all the things necessary to earn this badge, they get to show off their badge and use it to earn internships, possible employment, and then maybe college credit. We'll see where we go with this. So another example of this would be the spectrophotometry badge that we have. And we have an example digital portfolio where a scholar has earned the spectrophotometry badge, where it says what a scholar is able to do. And then one of the key things we want in these digital portfolios is that they're not just posting reflections to earn the badge, they're writing these reflections so that they can use what they did in the past to help them do it again in the future. So that Maivy in particular can, when she has to use a spectrophotometer a year later, can use what she put in the digital portfolio to help her use a spectrophotometer in the future to answer a research question in an investigation. So that's the idea. The badges will be awarded through a system we're going to be using, which is called Credly, and the teachers will be giving the badges. And then the kids will have a badge backpack where they keep their badges and then can attach them to various social media profiles, and then also include them on resumes so that they can show off their skills and knowledge with being a scientist. There are 2 types of badges that we're going to offer. Our workshop is going to focus on the mandatory badges that exist on a learning progression built by teachers and informed by our partners across all 4 grade levels. And there is a personalization by the scholar and the evidence they select to represent their competency with specific practices. There are badges that we're going to be offering late 10th grade and throughout 11th grade, and we're still working on developing the system for it, which are scholar-created badges, where scholars will create badges and seek out a STEM professional to sponsor their badge and act as a mentor towards earning it. The really cool thing about badges is that once you earn a badge, then you're in a community of other people who've earned a badge, and you're in a community of practice, and you can mentor other people towards earning those badges. What we've done is we've decided to summarize all the various practices of scientists and engineers into 3 categories. And we've developed these 3 categories based on our K-12 science framework and feedback from industry professionals. One of those categories is experimentation, planning, conducting, and evaluating experiments. Communication, forming arguments, critiques, and scientific explanations based on evidence collected from experimental or text-based research. Analysis, analyzing data, claims, theories, and models produced by scientists. So this is going to be the 3 categories that all badges will fit into. And then we're going to develop a hierarchy for these badges where that as you earn badges and accumulate enough, then you'll eventually earn a master badge. And that master badge will hopefully unlock opportunities for the scholar in internships and workforce opportunities and maybe college opportunities as well. So to get back to the beginning, what we need is industry and academic stories of performance tests. And from that, we're going to distill what skills, knowledge, and dispositions are most important for success. This is going to help us build those learning progressions of how kids progress from grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then we're going to be attaching digital badges to those learning progressions that act as mile markers and signify a scholar's progress towards mastery in a particular skill or knowledge base in science and engineering practices. Thank you so much. I'm so glad for you to participate. The next element is for you to post a reflection on a particular performance task that you've either had to go through or one that you've given to a student or a new employee to make sure that they have the skills and knowledge and the practices necessary to do the work and the tasks that they need to complete. Thank you so much.